Emma had lived on her father's farm her entire life, and every morning felt exactly the same. She woke before the sun, tied her hair back, washed her face with cold water from the metal bucket, and stepped outside to begin her chores. The farm was peaceful, surrounded by wide-open fields, tall trees, and a sky that stretched endlessly. But even with all that beauty around her, Emma always felt a quiet weight in her heart, like something important was missing from her life. Her father, Mr. Carter, was a man of routine. He believed in hard work, discipline, and sticking to traditions. He never raised his voice or acted unkindly, but he expected things to be done a certain way. He had run the farm alone since Emma's mother passed away many years ago, and he taught Emma everything he knew. But while he was satisfied with their simple life, Emma often felt like the world outside the farm was calling her. She dreamed of traveling to towns she had never seen, meeting new people, and learning new things. She imagined herself walking through busy streets, reading in quiet libraries, or working somewhere that made her feel proud and independent. But whenever she tried to talk about her dreams, her father brushed them aside. He always said, "This farm needs you. We can't manage without you." And Emma, out of love and respect, stayed silent. Still, the thoughts kept growing inside her. Each time she fed the chickens or carried buckets of water, she wondered what her life could look like if she stepped beyond the dusty fence that marked the edge of their land. She wondered if she would ever get the chance to discover who she truly wanted to be. One morning, after finishing her chores early, Emma went inside the small wooden house and found her father sitting at the table, going through old farm records. She gathered all her courage and gently said, "Papa, can we talk?" Her voice was soft, almost nervous. Mr. Carter looked up, waiting. "I've been thinking a lot," Emma continued, trying to keep her voice steady. "I want to study. I want to learn something new. Maybe go to the town nearby and work for a while. Just to try." Her father's face tightened slightly, not in anger but in concern. "Emma, you know this farm depends on us both. You are needed here more than anywhere else. The world out there is different, hard, not as simple as you imagine." "I know," Emma said quietly, "but I feel like I need to see it, even just once." Her father sighed heavily, the way he did when he felt overwhelmed. "Emma, we've talked about this before. Life out there isn't for us. You belong here." He spoke with certainty, and that certainty closed the door on Emma's hopes once again. She nodded, but inside her heart something shifted. She felt a small piece of herself break away, not in sadness, but in realization. She understood that if she waited for permission, she might never leave. And if she never left, she would never find out who she could become. She spent the rest of the morning moving through her chores slowly, lost in thought. She watched the birds fly freely across the sky, their wings catching the sunlight, and she wondered why she couldn't feel that same freedom. She walked the same paths she had walked since she was a child, but today those paths felt too familiar, too small. When the afternoon sun reached its highest point, warming the fields in a golden glow, Emma felt something inside her snap into place. She didn't plan it. She didn't sit down to think about it again. She simply felt a sudden courage rising in her chest, a quiet, steady voice telling her this was the moment. If she didn't take it, she might never get another chance. Without grabbing her shoes, without packing a bag, she stepped outside the farmhouse. The wooden floorboards creaked under her feet as she walked down the steps and into the open yard. She took one last look at the house she had grown up in, the peeling paint, the small windows, the old rocking chair on the porch, and felt a mixture of love, sadness, and hope. Then she turned around and began to run. The earth felt soft and cool under her bare feet. She ran across the familiar paths, through the field of tall grass, past the old barn, and toward the open land that stretched out like a promise. With every step, she felt lighter, as if the weight she carried for years was slowly lifting off her shoulders. The wind brushed against her face, carrying the scent of fresh soil and wildflowers. The sounds of birds filled the air, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt alive. Truly alive. Her heart beat fast, not from fear but from excitement. She didn't know exactly where she was going, but she knew she was running toward something new. She ran until she reached the edge of the farm, a place she rarely visited. There was a small wooden fence marking the boundary, and beyond it lay a dusty road that led to towns she had only heard about. Emma stopped there, breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling. She stood barefoot on the warm earth, staring at the road ahead, feeling the beauty of the unknown calling her forward. But as the adrenaline faded, her mind began to fill with questions. What if this was a mistake? What would she do once she reached the town? What if she wasn't ready for the world beyond the farm? These thoughts made her sit down near the fence, pulling her knees close to her chest. She could feel the rough soil under her feet and the gentle warmth of the sun on her skin. The excitement slowly mixed with uncertainty. She didn't hate the farm. She didn't resent her father. She simply wanted more choices, more experiences, more life. But now that she was actually facing the more she had dreamed of, she realized how unprepared she felt. She wished she had a plan, money, or even a pair of shoes. But she had none of those things. All she had was her courage. Emma closed her eyes and took a long breath. She reminded herself that she wasn't running away out of anger. She was running toward her future. She wanted to discover who she was outside the routines and expectations she had lived with all her life. As she sat there, her heart slowly calmed. The sound of the wind moving through the grass made her feel less alone. The road seemed endless, but it also felt like a doorway, a chance. Emma opened her eyes again, and for a moment, she simply watched the dust move with the breeze. She didn't know what would happen next. But she knew she couldn't go back, not yet, not until she knew what else the world had to offer. And so, barefoot and hopeful, Emma waited by the side of the road, not realizing that her journey was about to take a surprising turn, one that would change her life in a way she never expected. Emma sat by the dusty road with her knees pulled close to her chest, feeling a mix of fear and hope. She wasn't sure what would happen next. The road was quiet, stretching far in both directions, and the only sound she could hear was the gentle rustling of the wind through the tall grass. Her bare feet were covered in dust now, and her hair was messy from running. She didn't care. For the first time, she felt like she was moving toward her own future. She didn't notice the distant sound of hooves at first. It was soft, almost blending with the wind, but slowly, the sound grew louder, steady, and rhythmic. Emma lifted her head and looked down the road. A horse was approaching, its coat shining lightly under the sun. Riding it was a young man dressed in a worn-out shirt, dusty boots, and a hat that shaded his eyes from the bright afternoon light. As he got closer, Emma felt a sudden wave of nervousness. She didn't know this stranger. She didn't know if she should hide or run again, but she didn't have the strength to run anymore. And something about the way the rider slowed down as he approached made her pause. He didn't look threatening. He looked curious and concerned. The horse slowed to a gentle stop a few steps away from her. The rider leaned slightly forward, resting his hands on the saddle, and spoke in a warm voice that carried kindness instead of judgment. "You all right there?" he asked. Emma hesitated before answering. She didn't want to sound weak, but she also didn't want to lie. I think so," she said softly. "I just needed a break." He studied her for a moment, her tired eyes, her dusty feet, her anxious posture, but he didn't ask any uncomfortable questions. Instead, he gave her a small, reassuring smile. My name's Lucas, he said gently. I'm from the ranch a few miles down that way. He pointed behind him. You seem like you've been walking for a long time. Emma looked down, unsure how to explain everything. I'm just trying to figure things out, she said simply. I left home. Lucas nodded slowly. He didn't press her for details. That can be a hard thing to do, he said, but sometimes it's the bravest. His calm tone made her feel a little safer. He dismounted from the horse with easy movements, dust rising slightly as his boots touched the ground. He reached into the small leather bag tied to the saddle and pulled out a bottle of water. Here, he said, offering it to her. You look like you need this. Emma took it carefully, as if she wasn't sure she deserved such kindness. The water was cool, and it soothed her dry throat. Thank you, she murmured. No trouble at all, Lucas replied. He leaned against his horse and watched her with patient eyes. He was respectful, keeping a comfortable distance so she wouldn't feel overwhelmed. After a short silence, he asked softly, Do you have someplace you're heading to? Emma swallowed. Not really. I just needed to get away for a bit. I want to see what else is out there. I've never been anywhere except my father's farm. Lucas nodded again, as if he understood exactly how that felt. The world's big, he said, and it has a lot to teach us. Sometimes stepping out is the only way to learn. Emma looked at him, surprised by how easily he put her feelings into words. She hadn't expected understanding from a stranger. Lucas then glanced at her bare feet. You must be hurting, he said gently. Running on roads like this without shoes can't be easy. Emma gave a small, embarrassed laugh. I didn't plan it, she admitted. I just ran. Well, that happens, Lucas said with an easy smile. Sometimes life doesn't give us time to pack a bag. He paused for a moment before continuing. Listen, if you don't have anywhere in mind, you can come with me to the ranch. Just to rest, nothing more. We've got shade, water, and maybe some shoes you can borrow. You don't have to tell me anything you're not comfortable with. You just look like someone who could use a safe place for a bit. Emma felt her heart beat faster. She didn't know him. She didn't know if she should trust him. But something inside her quietly whispered that he meant no harm. His eyes were calm, his tone gentle, and his offer was made without any pressure. She sensed honesty in his voice, something rare and comforting. Still, she hesitated. I don't want to bother anyone, she said. Lucas shook his head lightly. It wouldn't be a bother, he said. That ranch is big, and we're used to helping folks when they need it. You won't be in anyone's way. Emma looked at the road ahead, then back at Lucas. She felt exhausted, unsure, and alone, but she also felt a tiny spark of hope. A safe place to rest sounded like something she desperately needed. Maybe she could gather her thoughts there and figure out what to do next. Okay, she said at last, her voice soft but steady. I'll come with you. Lucas's smile grew warmer. Good, he said. You'll be all right. He gently guided the horse closer and offered her his hand to help her climb up. Emma paused for a second before placing her hand in his. His grip was steady and reassuring. With his help, she climbed onto the horse, settling behind him carefully. Hold on lightly, Lucas said, making sure she was comfortable. We'll go slow. The horse began to move at a relaxed pace, its hooves kicking up small clouds of dust. Emma felt the sway of the ride and the warm afternoon breeze brushing against her face. The world looked different from the back of a horse, bigger, wider, full of possibilities. As they rode down the road, Lucas spoke casually, telling her about the ranch he worked on. It was run by an older couple who treated everyone like family. There were other workers, too, all friendly and hard-working. Emma listened quietly, her mind slowly settling with every word. She told him a little about herself, how she grew up on a farm, how she loved reading, and how she always wanted to learn more about the world. Lucas listened with genuine interest, nodding along, asking simple questions that made her feel heard instead of judged. "You've got a brave heart," he said at one point. "Not everyone can leave everything they've ever known. That takes courage." Emma looked down shyly. "I don't feel brave," she admitted. "I just felt stuck." "Sometimes feeling stuck is exactly what pushes us to move," Lucas replied. As they traveled, the scenery changed around them. Trees grew thicker, the road narrowed, and the air carried the scent of grass and fresh soil. Emma felt a peaceful feeling growing inside her. She didn't know what the future held, but at least for this moment she felt safe, and that was more than she expected when she left home. After a while, the ranch came into view. It was larger than she imagined, with wooden fences, open fields, and a long stable where horses rested. The place looked alive, full of movement and quiet strength. As they approached, Emma felt a strange but comforting sense of belonging, as if the ranch was welcoming her before she even stepped off the horse. Lucas helped her down gently. "Here we are," he said. "You can rest as long as you need." Emma looked around in quiet amazement. She didn't know what would come next. But she felt a deep feeling in her heart, something soft and hopeful, that maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change in a beautiful way. Emma stepped carefully onto the soft ground of the ranch, her bare feet sinking slightly into the cool soil. The place felt alive in a different way than her father's farm. The fields were wide, the fences well built, and the air carried a peaceful energy. Horses grazed quietly nearby, their tails swishing gently as birds chirped in the distance. It was a place full of life, yet calm and comforting. Lucas led his horse toward the stable, motioning for Emma to follow. "You can rest inside for a bit," he said kindly. "The ranch owners won't mind. They're good people." Emma nodded, feeling a mixture of nervousness and relief. Everything was new to her. The surroundings, the people she hadn't met yet, even the sense of freedom she was starting to feel. Inside the stable, the air was warm and smelled of hay. Lucas tied his horse to a post, patting the animal's neck gently. "This is River," he said with a smile. "He's been my companion for years." Emma smiled faintly. "He seems gentle." "He is," Lucas replied. "Kindness runs in his blood." Emma looked at the horse, thinking how strange it felt to be here instead of her father's farm. It had only been a few hours since she left, but it felt like she had stepped into another world, one she had only dreamed about. Lucas walked ahead and guided her out into the open space again. "Come," he said. "You should meet the others." Emma's steps were slow and cautious. She wasn't used to meeting strangers, especially in a place she knew nothing about, but she trusted Lucas's calm presence. Something about him made her feel safe, even though they had only known each other for a short time. They found a wooden bench under a large tree, its branches spreading wide and full of leaves. Lucas asked her to sit, and she did, feeling the shade settle comfortably around her. "Wait here a moment," he said. "I'll be right back." Emma watched him walk toward a small farmhouse nearby. The ranch owners must have lived there. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the small knot of anxiety in her chest. She didn't know what would happen when they met her. She didn't know if they would judge her or ask questions she didn't want to answer. But when Lucas returned with an older couple walking beside him, Emma immediately felt her nerves ease. Their faces were warm and friendly, their eyes filled with genuine concern, not suspicion. "This is Mr. and Mrs. Bennett," Lucas said, introducing them. "They own the ranch." Mrs. Bennett stepped forward with a gentle smile. "Hello, dear. Lucas told us you needed a place to rest. You're welcome to stay here as long as you need." Emma stood quickly, feeling the urge to be polite. Thank you, she said softly. I really appreciate it. I just needed some time away from home. Mr. Bennet nodded kindly. We all need a break sometimes, he said. Life on any farm can feel heavy on the heart. His understanding words surprised Emma. She had expected questions, maybe even doubt. But instead she found compassion. It warmed her in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Mrs. Bennet reached out. Come inside, child. You look tired. Emma followed them into the farmhouse. It was simple but cozy, with wooden furniture, colorful woven blankets, and the comforting smell of warm bread. Mrs. Bennet gave her a pair of soft slippers to wear so her feet could finally rest. Emma slipped them on gratefully, feeling a comfort she hadn't felt since she was little. They offered her a warm meal, a bowl of soup, freshly baked bread, and a glass of cool water. Emma ate slowly, savoring each bite. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until now. The Bennets didn't ask for details, didn't press her to explain herself. They simply let her eat in peace. After the meal, Mrs. Bennet showed her a small guest room. The bed was neatly made, the sheets soft and freshly washed. Emma ran her fingers gently over them, feeling a calmness wrap around her. You rest now, Mrs. Bennet said softly. You can talk when you're ready. Emma nodded gratefully. She lay down, and as soon as her head touched the pillow, exhaustion washed over her. Her eyes grew heavy, and before she realized it, she fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. When she woke up, the sun outside the window had moved, painting the room in golden afternoon light. She stretched gently, feeling more rested than she had in days. For a moment, she wondered where she was, but then she remembered the ranch, Lucas, the kind Bennets. A wave of gratitude filled her chest. After washing her face, she stepped out onto the porch. Lucas was sitting on a wooden railing, polishing a saddle. He looked up when he heard her footsteps. Feeling better? He asked with a soft smile. Yes, Emma said, returning his smile. Thank you for everything. You don't need to thank me, Lucas replied, shrugging lightly. Everyone needs a helping hand sometimes. Emma walked toward him slowly. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't passed by. Lucas shook his head. Life has a way of putting us in each other's paths at the right time. For a moment they stood quietly, watching the horses in the distance. Emma felt a strange but comforting sense of belonging, as if she had been here before, even though she hadn't. Lucas glanced at her feet. Do they still hurt? A little, she admitted. But the slippers helped. There's more comfortable footwear in the barn, Lucas said. Come on, I'll show you. Emma followed him to the barn, where he opened a small storage box filled with old but clean shoes of different sizes. She tried on a pair that fit perfectly. They were soft and sturdy, giving her feet the support they needed. You look ready to walk the world now, Lucas joked lightly. Emma laughed softly. One step at a time. Lucas guided her around the ranch, explaining how things worked there. He showed her the fields where the workers grew vegetables, the stable where the horses slept, and the open areas where they trained the younger horses. Emma listened with full interest. Everything was new and exciting. Do you want to help with something? Lucas asked. Only if you feel like it. Emma nodded eagerly. I'd like to try. They started with simple tasks, brushing the horses, carrying small buckets of water, cleaning the stable area. At first, Emma felt unsure of herself. She didn't want to make mistakes, but Lucas guided her gently, never rushing her, never judging her. He was patient, always encouraging her to take her time. You're doing great, he said as she brushed one of the younger horses. Emma felt warmth in her chest. I've never done anything like this before. It feels different from my father's farm. How so? Lucas asked. It feels Free, Emma replied honestly. At home, everything is routine. Here, it feels like I can breathe. Lucas nodded with understanding. Sometimes all we need is a change of place to remember who we are. As the sun lowered in the sky, painting the ranch in warm orange light, Emma felt something changing inside her. She wasn't just resting anymore. She was learning, growing, and discovering new sides of herself, sides she never knew existed. She felt lighter, stronger, more confident, and without her realizing it, Lucas had become part of that change. His gentle words, his quiet encouragement, and his kind presence filled the empty spaces in her heart with hope. By the time evening arrived, Emma felt like she had lived an entire new life in just one day. As she walked back toward the farmhouse with Lucas, she looked at the setting sun and thought to herself that maybe, just maybe, she had found a place where she truly belonged, at least for now. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew she wasn't alone anymore, and that feeling gave her more strength than she had felt in years. Days passed quietly on the Bennett ranch, and Emma slowly settled into a new rhythm, one that felt gentle, hopeful, and full of discovery. Each morning, she woke with a feeling she hadn't known in years, the feeling of having choices. She opened her eyes not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The sound of horses neighing softly in the distance, the smell of fresh grass, and the warm sunlight streaming through the window all made her feel at peace. Mrs. Bennett treated her like a daughter, offering warm meals and kind words. Mr. Bennett taught her little skills of the ranch, how to tie ropes properly, how to check on the animals, and how to recognize signs of weather changes. They never pushed her to explain why she left her home, though they sensed she carried a heavy story inside her. They let her open up slowly at her own pace. But the person she spent most of her time with was Lucas. He was patient, thoughtful, and always careful not to step into her personal space unless she welcomed it. He had a calm presence that made everything feel less frightening. He explained things gently, guided her around the ranch, and made her laugh at moments when she didn't expect to smile. Every day, Emma grew more confident. She learned things she never imagined she could. She learned how to guide a young horse around an open field. She learned how to mend small fences. She learned how to move with the rhythm of the ranch instead of the pressure of expectations. But even in this peaceful place, Emma sometimes found herself staring at the horizon, wondering about her father. She missed him, not the strict routines, but the quiet bond they shared before life became too heavy. She wondered if he was worried. She wondered if he understood why she left. These thoughts created a soft ache in her heart. One evening, after a long day of helping Lucas repair a fence, Emma sat under the big tree near the ranch house. The sky was turning shades of orange, pink, and purple. Lucas joined her, sitting at a comfortable distance, giving her space to breathe. "You look deep in thought," he said gently. Emma looked down at her hands. "I've been thinking about my father," she admitted. "I left so suddenly. I don't know how he feels now." Lucas nodded slowly. "Sometimes the people we care about don't understand our dreams right away. But that doesn't mean they don't care. Maybe he just needs time." Emma sighed. "I wish I knew what to do next." Lucas looked at the horizon thoughtfully. "You don't have to figure it all out today. Growth takes time. Healing takes time. And deciding who you want to be takes time too." Emma felt grateful for his words. They sounded simple, yet they carried truth. She realized she didn't need all the answers at once. She just needed to keep moving forward, step by step. Over the next days, Emma continued learning and helping. She enjoyed the work, the people, the horses, and even the quiet evenings. The ranch felt like a second home, a place where her spirit could finally breathe. But a turning point arrived one morning. Lucas walked into the stable with a thoughtful look on his face. "Emma," he said, I think it's time we take a little ride. She looked at him curiously. Where? To the hill overlooking the valley, he said. There's something I want to show you. Emma agreed, feeling a mixture of curiosity and excitement. They saddled River and another gentle horse, and Lucas helped her mount carefully. He made sure she was steady before guiding them toward the open fields. The ride was peaceful. The wind brushed against their faces, the grass whispered beneath the horses' hooves, and the sky was bright and clear. Emma felt a sense of freedom as they moved through the open land. When they finally reached the hill, Lucas helped her down. Come on, he said, pointing upward. It's worth the climb. They walked to the top, and when they reached it, Emma gasped softly. The entire valley spread out before them. The ranch, the fields, the winding paths, the clusters of trees. It looked beautiful, glowing softly under the morning light. It's lovely, she whispered. Lucas watched her quietly. That valley. It's full of people who care. People who found their way here when they didn't know where else to go. Emma looked at him, listening carefully. Lucas continued. Years ago, I came here just like you. Lost, confused, unsure of my path. He paused, his eyes gentle. The Bennetts helped me see that life isn't about staying in one place. It's about finding where you feel safe, where you can grow, and where your heart feels understood. Emma felt something stir inside her. You think I belong here? She asked softly. Lucas smiled gently. I think you deserve a place where you feel free. Whether that's here or somewhere else, you'll know. Emma took in his words, letting them settle in her heart. She looked across the land, feeling a sense of clarity she hadn't felt in a long time. She realized she had come far, not just in distance, but in understanding herself. The girl who ran barefoot from her father's farm was no longer scared. She was stronger, wiser, and filled with a quiet courage. But she also knew something important. She needed to face her past before she could fully embrace her future. Lucas, she said softly, I think I want to talk to my father. I want to tell him how I feel. Lucas nodded, his expression warm. Then I'll help you get there. Emma's eyes widened slightly. You will? Of course, he said. No one should make that journey alone. The next morning, they prepared to travel. Emma felt nervous but determined. She wore the shoes she had borrowed from the ranch, tied her hair back neatly, and took a deep breath. Lucas saddled River, making sure everything was safe and secure. You ready? He asked gently. Emma nodded. Yes. The ride back toward her father's farm was quiet but filled with meaning. Emma thought about everything she had learned, the kindness of the Bennetts, the peace of the ranch, and Lucas's steady support. She realized that her journey had taught her the biggest lesson of all. She had a right to her dreams. When they reached her father's farm, Emma's heart pounded. The old wooden house looked just as she remembered it, standing quietly under the wide sky. Her father stepped out onto the porch, surprise filling his face. Emma, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Emma stepped forward, her voice calm but full of emotion. Papa, I needed time to understand myself. I needed to see the world outside the farm. I'm not here to run away again. I'm here to talk. Her father looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'm glad you came back, he said softly. I was worried. I never meant to hold you back. I just didn't want to lose you. Tears filled Emma's eyes. You didn't lose me. I just needed to grow. Her father nodded again, understanding finally blooming in his eyes. Then grow, he said gently. And wherever you find happiness, you have my blessing. Emma felt a weight lift from her heart. She hugged her father tightly, feeling years of unspoken emotion soften between them. When she returned to Lucas, who waited a few steps behind, she felt calm, like a chapter had just closed peacefully. "So," Lucas said warmly. "What now?" Emma smiled. "Now, I choose my own path, and I think it leads back to the ranch." Lucas's smile grew, full of warmth. "I hoped you'd say that." And as they rode back together under the open sky, Emma felt lighter than she ever had before. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't escaping. She was moving toward the life she wanted, one filled with kindness, hope, and new beginnings. Her journey had started with bare feet and fear, and it ended with courage, understanding, and a future she had finally chosen for herself.